What I'm going to show you now is a really simple story, but we'll make it look good. So, the first thing you'll do when you start your comic strip, don't do this now, but when you start in a few minutes, is you do a border around the edge. The reason we do this is because the photocopier can't see the outside edge of the page. So if you go right up to the edge of the page, it'll get cut off. So step number one, border around the edge. I'll remind you of that in a minute. So here's my page, there's my border. Now my story's not going to be as exciting as yours, it's just going to be the story of a famous person walking down the street. Who could it be? Hands in the air with a suggestion of a real live living famous person walking down the street. Yeah? Taylor Swift. Okay. Taylor Swift is walking along the street. In picture number 2, Taylor Swift is so busy thinking about her next acceptance speech that she doesn't notice there's a worm wriggling along the footpath in front of her. And so, in picture number 3, totally by accident, Taylor Swift treads on the worm. Now, that's all that's going to happen in my story, but we could make it look more interesting than that, because that looks rubbish, doesn't it? That is like the worst comic strip anyone in this room is likely ever to do. What do we need to put in those drawings to make them look less rubbish? Yes. Yeah, who, what? Yeah. Background's a good idea, yeah. We'll get some background, we'll get some skyscrapers in there. There's Taylor Swift walking through New York. She's walking through New York City. There's the skyscrapers of New York there, and there's the footpath she's walking along. But what else do we need to make it look a bit more realistic?
Instead of a stick lady, you could put some more like clothes.
That's it, yeah. We don't want a stick lady. Stick ladies are for 3-year-olds to draw. We're going to have her wearing some clothes. She's wearing a trouser suit. There's a shadow to show the sun shining. And should we get some words in there as well? What's Taylor Swift's most famous song? Is that
Romeo!
Romeo. How's it go? Yeah, that one. Okay, she's going blah, blah, Romeo, blah, blah, and Juliet. Hello, I am Juliet, and I am a catapult. Right, okay, fair enough. So she's singing Romeo and Juliet, and she's walking along that. And we need to get some more detail on her face, don't we? So we need her eyes, and her nose, and her mouth, and her ears, and her hair. And I can't fit it all in. What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong here?
You scribbled the head out.
So I've made it too small?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I've done is I've fallen into a trap. And this is a trap that I don't want any of you to fall into. I've fallen into the tiny trap. This is a trap that a lot of people fall into when they do their first comic strips. And this is a trap that I want you to avoid. Now, the reason people fall into this trap of doing pictures too small is because they've seen comics like, so look at this. This is a Beano comic written and drawn by me. This is one of mine. And this is a story where everybody went to the Queen's birthday party. And at the end of the story, the Queen gets squashed by a hot air balloon. I know. And that's what it looked like in the Beano. That's what it looked like when I drew it. That's the original artwork. Now, there you go. Apart from the colour, which I do on the computer before it goes to print, what is the obvious difference between the artwork and the comic?
The comic has more smaller boxes, and the original one has bigger boxes.
The artwork is big, and then we shrink it down small. And that's the same as every comic you've ever seen. The Dandy, or the Beano, or the Simpsons, or Transformers, or Japanese manga, or American superhero comics. We draw them big, and then we shrink them down small. Why? Why do we draw them big and then shrink them down small? Yes. Detail. You can get more detail into your drawings. Yes, that's what it was on the tip of your tongue. You stuck it out and you could read it. Yes, you get more detail in. If you draw it big and then shrink it down small, you get more detail into your drawings, which makes you look like you're a better artist than you already are, and it's much easier to do. Who wants this to be unnecessarily difficult? No. Who wants this to be really, really easy? Yeah. Okay, to make it easy, if we draw it big, if we keep our pictures nice and big, if we avoid the tiny trap, it will be so much better. If we get nice pictures, if you've got your title at the top there like that, and then you've got a picture as big as that, half as wide as the page, that will avoid the tiny trap. Let me show you how good it is if you avoid the tiny trap. We're going to go back to square one, and this time I'm going to get a title at the top. My title is going to be Taylor Swift meets a worm. And now, for picture number 1, Taylor Swift walking along the street. Now look at that, that's a nice big picture, isn't it? And so you can see her walking along saying, "Hello, I'm Taylor. This is what I talk like. You've probably not heard my voice before, but this is what it sounds like. Hello, I'm Taylor." And now I want to see that it's Taylor Swift. So, do I need to draw her from her head right down to her feet? Every time? No, I can zoom in, exactly. Zoom in on her big Taylor Swift face. Now, I can still see that she's walking along the street because I can see her swinging her arms there like that. But now I can see what she's wearing. I can see maybe a shirt and jacket thing like that. And now I can see her Taylor Swift smile and her tiny little nose there and her eyes there like that. And I can see her hair, and I don't know what she's wearing her hair like, but she's wearing it like that today. Now, you can still see the skyscrapers in the background. I can still see the path that she's walking along. Doesn't that look more like Taylor Swift walking along the street? Yeah. When you're doing a comic strip, every picture tells the story. So all you need to do to make your comic strip look great is think what's going to happen in your story. And then as big as you can, as clear as you can, show what's happening. And the best way to do that is to make every picture different from every other picture. So in the next picture of my story, Taylor Swift is walking towards a worm. And I really want to see that worm. So there's the worm lying down there on the pavement. And then Taylor Swift is about 10 feet away walking towards us, going blah, blah, blah. And so what would she look like in this picture? If the worm's right up close, she can be small because she's far away, exactly, yes. Not so small that she's a pin figure, but big enough that we can see that it's her walking towards us there, like that. And what would that footpath look like that she's walking along? If the worm is big, because it's right up in front of my nose, and Taylor Swift's small, because she's far away, what would the sides of that footpath look like? Yeah, so they get closer together. They look like they get closer together as they come closer to Taylor Swift. That's exactly it. Yeah, they look like they get closer together as they get further away from it. It's like the sides of the footpath, the sides of the curb, disappear towards exactly what you said. Yes, indeed. Disappear towards Taylor Swift's belly button. Does anybody know what this special effect is called? No, it's perspective. Perspective, where things get smaller as they get further away. Don't worry about perspective, but if you can get perspective into your drawings, it would be fantastic. But don't worry if you don't. Well, the important thing is, I want every picture to look different from every other picture. I want every picture to show us clearly what is happening in your story. So, in my story, Taylor Swift has got her foot hovering above the worm, about to squash that worm to death. So, what shall I draw next?
Ooh, she's nearly like on her feet.
So the foot's on top of so I zoom in close on her foot. Get a big foot hovering right above the worm. Yeah? Excellent. And the worm. So we've got the foot about to squash the worm, and we've got the worm going, ah! Two great ideas. If you've got two great ideas, don't try and cram them all into one picture. Every great idea deserves its own great picture. So I'm going to have one picture, which is Taylor Swift's foot about to squash the worm, and I'm going to have another picture, which is the face of the terrified worm. Here we've got Taylor Swift's foot, there's her ankle, there's a shoe there, and there is the worm down there. And there's the shadow of Taylor Swift's foot about to squash that worm. There's the horizon going over there like that. There's the skyscrapers there in the background. And then, in the next picture, we're going to have the face of the terrified worm. Picture it in your mind's eye. Picture the face of a terrified worm. There you go. Doesn't that look like a scared worm? Does he not look scared? Wait, how about if I do this? How about if I get some shuddering lines like that? Does he look scared now? Okay, how about if I get some, a voice bubble there, a voice bubble going eek there like that? Does he look scared now? Okay, how about if I get some frightened lines coming out there like that, some shock lines, some frightened lines? Does he look scared now? Okay, how about if I get his eyeballs in? Does he look scared now? Okay, wait, how about if I get his mouth in? Yeah, I'll get his mouth in. Does he look scared now? Okay, how about if I take the action from that picture and also put it in this picture? I'll get the shadow of Taylor Swift's foot and also have it appearing in this picture here. So the shadow is surrounding the worm. Does he look scared now? Yeah. Starting to get there. Let's go the whole hog. Let's get the shadow of the worm and make it go right down the centre of the worm. So the shadow goes down the centre of the worm, goes down the top. There's light coming in from the side, enough to highlight his eyeballs, enough to highlight his mouth, and the rest of him is totally in shadow. Does he look scared now? Yeah, get a bit of shadow in there and you can turn it into a scary story. But if you don't think that's scary enough, there's one thing you can do in comics, and you can't do this in film, you can't do this in TV. You can make one picture bigger than all the rest. If you're making a film or a TV show, all your pictures will be the same shape and the same size. But if you're making a comic strip, you can go from a picture that size to a picture that size to your next picture, which could be a big wide picture like that, or it could go right down to the foot of the page, staying inside your border, so that in the moment before Taylor Swift squashes the worm, I've zoomed in so close, I've avoided the tiny trap by so much that I can see every ridge on his little wormy body. I can see his big wide open wormy mouth with his big terrified wormy teeth. Yes, they do. And then I can see his big scared wormy eyeballs looking up there like that. Now, does that look like a scared worm? Yeah, you see, If you avoid the tiny trap, if you give yourself big pictures so we can see what's happening, you can get so much detail in. I could even get worms' eyebrows in. I could get worms' sweat flying off there. I could get a big worm scream down here in the voice bubble. Big wormy scream, yeah. I could even do an interestingly shaped wormy screaming voice bubble. And then the worm is looking up, about to be squashed by Taylor Swift. What's the first thing the worm can see? The foot, yes, which bit of the foot? The sole. We see the sole of Taylor Swift's foot. We see her heel down there, and then we see a sole, and there it is bursting out the side of the picture. You could only do that in comics, can't you? You couldn't do that in film, have something bursting out the side of the picture. There's a little bit of chewing gum. Or is it dog poo? Can't tell. And then we see the rest of her foot, and then Taylor Swift's foot disappears up her ankle disappears up her trousers, sorry. Her foot disappears up her trousers, and then her trouser leg gets smaller as it gets further away, using the technique called perspective. Yes, exactly. It gets smaller as it gets further away using perspective. And if that leg gets smaller as it gets further away, then this leg is going to get bigger as it comes down towards us. Bigger as down towards as it comes using perspective. We see up her other trouser leg like that. We see her other shoe down there on the ground. We see the horizon going over there like that. And then the top of Taylor Swift's body carries on going smaller as it gets further away. There's a hand reaching down towards us there. And there's a tiny little Taylor Swift head. Now, doesn't that look better than that? Yeah. This is the tiny trap. That's what we're going to avoid. This is such a big picture. I could even get the skyscrapers in. I could get the skyscrapers getting smaller as they get further away. This one here getting smaller as it gets further away. This one here getting bigger as it comes down towards us. Even the windows of the skyscraper could be getting bigger as they come down towards us there, like that. We get bigger as they come down towards us like that.